welcome to Unfiltered Conversations, Supriya ji. And we have an incredible guest like you, who is the CEO and co-founder at Josh Talks, India's foremost regional content and upskilling platform with a vision to make learning accessible and affordable for everybody. She is also an advisor and mentor to prestigious platforms like UNICEF's Yuva, Niti Aayog's Atal Innovation Mission, and many more. So thank you for sharing and accepting our invitation to come on board and letting us delve a little deeper into how you began this journey, and also inspiring a lot of women entrepreneurs, a lot of human beings who are looking up for such inspiration from you. So shall we begin? Would you like to say something to our audience before we start off?
No, thank you so much for having me here. I'm, super excited. I know this is going to be an unfiltered conversation. I follow you, so I've seen bits of some of your other conversations as well. So really excited to go deep and see how this comes out.
Thank you so much, and I'm really excited to have you on board for this season. So my first question is something which I'm personally interested in. That's how did you begin Josh Talks? Like, where did the inspiration come from for you?
So it was not really inspiration, it was more sort of frustration. I was 19 years old, studying BCom honors in Delhi University, doing my chartered accountancy along with that, where out of a class of 250 people, 246 were preparing for the CA exams. And there was this like huge sort of herd mentality ki if everyone is doing accounts, then you also should be doing accounts, without knowing what the end outcome will be. Yes. Everyone's goal was you get placement in a big four, then you work your way up, and then eventually in 10 years you can make partner. And I felt very sort of lost in that kind of herd, and I also felt that I lacked a degree of purpose. And coincidentally, this timed well with me meeting Shobhit, who's my co-founder, who had such a different background. He pursued sports full time, dropped out of school, cycled for the Indian team, but we share this common frustration that young people have so much potential, and if there was a platform that gave direction to that potential, what would be the outcome of that? And that's sort of where the idea of Josh came about. And the word Josh means energy and drive, and that was the sole purpose. How do we instill drive in people to get up and do something big with their life?
I think before the dialogue came, how's the Josh, you were already on it and doing all of that things. But my other question to you is, this content ecosystem or creator economy came much later. It was like after COVID, and maybe in the West it was something which is flourishing, but you are way ahead of time. So how did you get that confidence? Because even if I am creating a podcast, I always think that in a pool of such incredible options to opt for, let's say safe job opportunities or something like that, why to delve into this which was very uncertain when you started?
No, absolutely. I think, it was also naivety. When you are young and you have a lot of energy, you take decisions which at that time are triggered by your enthusiasm, and then you look back to say whether this was the right decision for you or not. But interestingly enough, what happened, Devyani, is that Geo happened in 2016. So we were still sort of fresh out of campus. We had just started doing these talks offline. The first video had gone up, and we realized the potential of YouTube once smartphone penetration reached tier 2, tier 3 India. And having grown up watching content of the West online, being an avid sort of consumer of TED Talks, we knew that there is a market for something like this, right? Because the viewership of TED gave us that confidence that there is someone who's looking at watching knowledge-based content on the internet. We just have to find that audience in India. But so honestly, it was a very slow journey in the beginning, because we were reliant on access. So as the penetration increased, as YouTube became regional, we started growing across different languages. But like, I say to everyone who's starting their journey on YouTube, you'll see the returns compound, but only after 5 years. So you have to be super patient. And it's just this sort of like, sort of discipline that you need to adopt in putting out content regularly without any expectations till you finally reach that inflection point after which everyone will sort of watch you and know what you do.
For me, as a woman or somebody like that, what were the taboos, or what were the questions, what were the negative backlash you got when you were starting, because you were very young? So do you remember any experiences where people said, oh, this looks very delusional for me? Is this going to even get into something which is going to be a revenue stream for you? Is this something legit? Can you talk about that? And then we'll go into the tier 2 role models which you've built for Josh.
Yeah. No, so I think, one is of course gender and bias associated with gender, but the second is also age. And in our country, this era of young startup founders and entrepreneurs just started during COVID, when suddenly there was a lot of capital in the market and people straight out of IITs and IIMs were starting up, right? Yes. But back when we started, there wasn't this whole craze of, like young people getting into entrepreneurship. It was a privilege for the experienced consultant leaving McKinsey and then starting their new life ahead. So there were a lot of like ageist related sort of remarks that I got to hear a lot. And it came from any area of monetization, for example, like advertisers, right? They don't take you seriously if you are young. They thought that this was a hobby. This can't be like, when you're saying that I'm going to own the biggest inspirational IP in the country, people look down and say like, what does that mean? It takes like decades to build an IP that is recognizable. Absolutely. And here you are 20 nothing, trying to, command that respect from us. But over a period of time, I think when we were able to convince our first advertiser, and that was actually Facebook, now Meta, is when people started taking us seriously, saying that, okay, if this big tech organization is backing them, and within 1.5 years, we'd done so much content, so many offline events with them, then a lot more came our way and started taking it seriously.
That's fabulous. And that's how you also build one of the most inspiring and prestigious regional platforms, which is spread across India and more. So how did you find and approach these real role models from tier 2 cities? Like, how was your process like to do that?
Yeah. So, Josh is for the masses, right? So Josh is amongst all of us and in all of us, and that's sort of the belief of the organization. So, people think that you have to go really like in depth trying to find a story, but at the end of the day, we are a country of 1.2 billion stories, and everyone and their sort of journey is inspirational to someone else. Because we like to see a reflection of us in our role model, and that's when we sort of say that, okay, are they the people that we want to follow? Yeah. So, in the beginning, we went the route of looking at people who were, say, big and prominent on the internet, because we thought only that content would do well, and then chased them at events, conferences, spoke to PR agencies, talent agencies, getting them on board. And then we realized that the stories are actually at the Sikandarpur metro station, which is 100 meters from our office, where there is a guy who runs a small business or a shop, and now his daughter is going to private school. And that is the biggest source of inspiration for someone sitting in Bihar right now, dreaming about this life where they can give high quality education to their children. So we kind of changed our approach then and started doing a lot of on-ground research. We partnered with not-for-profits who gave us stories of their beneficiaries. We partnered with local magazines, like the Purane Zamane ki Grah Lakshmi, Grah Shobha, and we started getting stories from there of, women who had gone and achieved something. And that's how we built a network of getting the stories in initially.
That's beautiful. So how was the ideation to execution? Now, getting and sourcing stories is one thing, but when you are a company who wants to actually set up a proper, like a TED sort of setup for regional, and it is completely new for somebody to even talk and have that conversation and all that. So what is your ideation to execution sort of setup when you get somebody on board, when you get a strong story? Because when at the moment somebody gets in front of a camera, even if it is offline, online, anything, sometimes we just keep everything inside. We just don't speak out. So what is that process that you make Josh Talk so beautiful and so vulnerable and so honest in nature?
Yeah, so it's the timeline depends speaker to speaker and with their level of comfort and how they feel when they come to the studio, they stand on the stage and they're there. But typically it's like a 30 to 40 day timeline, which involves the curation team speaking to the speaker, getting access to their story, which is like almost like a 2 hour therapy venting session, and then recording that into a structure which is then shared with them, and then over a period of time they come and deliver. So a lot of speakers require proper structuring and scripting. A lot of people are able to do it through question and answers that are just asked to them, and then they kind of repeat that to us. So there are different things that work for different sets of people, but I think you can be the most vulnerable when you are unscripted. When there is a degree of comfort with someone. So, we are a very non-intimidating team. So I think every speaker ends up building a relationship with the curator who's working with them. And then that relationship comes live on screen when you see that they're just talking to a friend. And that's how that vulnerability actually comes about in the video.
I love the fact that Josh is all about diversification and experimentation. Every story is not the same. Usually on platforms like that, there can be similarity which comes into picture, but over the years, you see different sort of quality which comes with every video, every offline talk that Josh brings. So how do you make sure of being experimental and diversified in this content, yet having that unique approach that this is who we are? Because sometimes in the pool of content and as content creators, we just forget our niche and we start experimenting with trends that, chalo, this is trending, let's jump onto this. But I don't see Josh doing that. But yet they are very different.
Yeah, so I think the trend for us is what are the aspirational careers that are there for our audience set. And because our penetration is regional markets, tier 2, tier 3 India, the aspiration has been sort of evolving but also constant. For example, government jobs is still the single biggest aspiration of people in our country. Then if you don't crack the government job, then you go into private jobs. If you are not able to crack a private job opportunity, then you end up starting your own small business, dukan as we call it. So I think there are some common trends that have been there, which are the aspirational sort of careers that we keep endorsing and talking about. And then as and when markets develop and evolve, if there is a new opportunity and we see that, okay, this is a career that's booming or is something that we'd like to bring to our users. So for example, this whole conversation around investment wasn't as big pre-COVID, but now young people are interested in learning more about how to invest their money and how to grow wealth. So we've started a category which focuses on all of this. A lot of people in class 12 who are looking at now giving the NEET medical entrance or the JEE engineering exams want to look at stories of people who've cracked that exam. So then we have 2 separate channels which are just focusing on test prep. So it keeps evolving with like what the need of the end user is and what is the information asymmetry on the internet. So what, like our objective is that we want to fuel exposure, right? कि जो छोटे शहरों से आ रहा है उसके पास equal opportunity हो जोश की वजह से. So whatever is a topic where we feel that the information is not symmetrical and is not reaching our audiences is where we produce content.
Okay, that's amazing, because I think you have 10 languages which you are working on, and to build an infrastructure like that, now everybody asks about the front end of it, right? But if somebody wants to get onboarded on Josh in the back end, like what is the rule book which Josh has for any talent to come and work with them? Because that is something I would also want to showcase on my podcast, where what is the thing which Josh looks at when onboarding new talent, because again it's a great opportunity for anybody to come and apply to Josh.
Yeah, I think our fundamental belief is that skills can be taught, but culture is something that you come with. So the objective has always been to get people who are more mission leaning than others. And what's happened over a period of time is, I think, the youth in general has become social impact leaning and wants to do purposeful work as opposed to just be in a capitalistic monetization environment, right? So that's something that's kind of helped us get the right set of people on board. I think the second thing is because we're a brand that is super energetic and passionate, we have to see that same energy and drive in people who come here to want to change internal processes also and grow them to become bigger. So that's something that we look at, that am I excited in that interview or not, or is there someone who's leaning back, you know, just doing this as a 9 to 5 job? If we can't have a conversation with the person on the other end, then it's not someone who can be successful at Josh. And the third thing is that the understanding of our audience is super critical to us, because we can't be sitting in an AC environment in a room and trying to make content of someone who's, you know, fighting to put food on the table. So most people that come to Josh are from backgrounds where they have seen that themselves, or have, you know, either worked or, you know, lived in that space where this is common, so that we can empathize with who we are creating content for and be able to build that sort of pipeline of, you know, content online as well.
I want to ask you about this, that this needs a lot of passion. Now this is a very personal question to you.
Yeah.
That you started this very young. Was there anything in your childhood or something that drove this passion or the inclination towards doing these sort of activities for people? Because this is also a social impact work. Yes, it is a business model, but it is driven by social impact, and this is helping transform many lives. It is helping increase the visibility of someone who needs it. Was it something that inclined you towards doing that? Any experience or any journey which you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I think, you know, from my early childhood, I was very close to my grandparents on my maternal side, right, my nani. And my nani passed away because of cancer. And I was very young, and so I don't have like clear sort of memories of that. But I remember when she passed away, I had this desire that I want to become a doctor because this is what I want to solve for. And you're like 13 years old and you think of, you know, like an ideal world, right, that I want to go and solve for cancer. But I think something that stayed with me was, through this entire experience, was that I want to do something which is valuable or good in the world. And that there was this sort of sense of responsibility, that I've come from a place where I've had food to eat, I've gone to a good school, I've always had parents who've given me quality education and exposure. And what am I going to do to the world with that, right? And is a 9 to 5 desk job the biggest sort of outcome for my potential, or can I actually create something that has immense value for the world? A second instance was while during the journey of Josh, it was only 2016, and I had something called pulmonary embolism, which is equivalent to a stroke. So I was in the hospital for like 2.5 months, and then a recovery timeline of 6 months while still working in the organization. And that, I think, just, I don't know what it did to me, and I still sometimes when I reflect back, I can't, you know, put it into words, but it just gave me this intense desire to want to do as much as I can with the life that I have. Because, you know, when you're in that situation, when you, and I earlier, you know, people used to say this, that when you have a near-death experience, something in your body changes and something in your life changes. And when I went through that situation, I realized that, you know, like, there is a time attached to this life. So how intense can you be about pursuing your goal in that timeline?
Thank you for trusting me with sharing this this story with me, because this means a lot to me that you opened up about that. And I can truly resonate to you, because when I was growing up, I've seen that I used to go with my grandfather or my aji to meet farmers, or to just go to girls' school, because he was establishing a girls' school back then, and he was trying to convince farmers to let their daughters go and you know, learn, educate, and he used to do it free of cost. And I used to see him talk to a lot of people, saying that, you know, you never take an extra penny from everybody, never do that. Like, you try to build as much as exposure for everyone to be on an equal platform. And what you say over here is something which resonates with many, and what you're trying to do is like building a very long table and just breaking that fence. You know, with privilege, you're helping a lot of people sit together with you and be that inspiration and driving force for people to dream even bigger. I remember Radhika Gupta also, one of the podcasts I was listening to her, she said that punk fellow. Like just as a woman, if you want to build a 50 CR company, just say that you're going to build it, at least you'll reach for a 20 CR, right? And in India, I feel that we hesitate from asking for what we truly deserve. We hesitate for asking what we really want for ourselves and to do for others. And you are just breaking that ceiling left, right, and center. I'm so grateful to be talking to you today, Supriya. So, this is amazing what you're doing. And yeah, and like now I'd like to ask you about that. What are the crucial things, because you come from a background of a lot of depth in whatever you do. So what are the crucial things to excel in this space for a long term? Because this is okay that for a quarter or for a year or several years you will last, but there is a stagnancy period which is attached to content creation or to these business models. So how to create an everlasting business?
Yeah. So I think one thing which is, common or which will stay with you through your entire journey is that social entrepreneurship is not for the weak-hearted, right? It's a much longer journey than, say, someone who's working on a direct business, and your access to capital is limited. So, you have to grow with like fundamentally strong economics, because it's not very easy to get the right set of investors to back you for something like this. So I think the first thing is having patience as a virtue. And I've also learned this now over a period of time, because I used to be really like impatient that, okay, let's do this, let's do 10 things, let's grow faster. But what you realize is that when you have built a brand, there is sort of like this, dichotomy that you're always in, that if you grow too fast, if you monetize too fast, you're losing out on the trust and reputation that you've built because of all the work that you've done. So I think that's there, like patience is extremely important. The second thing is that you have to be obsessed with the end user. And who they are and what are they consuming has to become a part of your core DNA. And the closer you are to that communication on a daily basis, your mind becomes accustomed to building that way and for that user set. Most organizations try and diversify users very fast, or look at different groups for monetization, and then lose that sort of customer centricity along the way. And I think that's incredibly important. And it goes. It's the same thing for content creation, right? If you don't know who your viewer is and why they are consuming you, you can't build new content for them. And the third thing is, I think you have to keep evolving and innovating with business models. Like early on, we were a media sort of centric organization where, like, typically to other media firms, we had advertisers. Over a period of time, we realized that we've amassed distribution and we have so many people who are young watching our content. So what is it that they are looking for in their career? And we had this, sort of revelation that English learning or spoken English is something that's still a barrier to success, and there is no good product in the market. True. So we started our own spoken English app. So I think just being so close to the user that you know what their pain points are on a daily basis and you're able to innovate for them helps stay on.
In the users, I have also noticed that you are a big advocate for women.
Yeah.
And you are known for, raising right kind of questions or doing right kind of things for them. Would you like to talk about that a little?
Yeah, so I think, what's happened over the last, say, 5 to 10 years is that a lot has changed in the landscape of employment as well as entrepreneurship for women. But I still see that even though women now have a seat at the table, one of the things that keeps holding them back is their level of confidence, or their level of, say, communication skills, how they present themselves, how they're able to hold a conversation in a room full of men. And there is like a lack of community, right? Even when we raised capital, like we didn't have any female investors on our cap table, and then I made it a point over a period of time till we got like Vinita from Sugar Cosmetics as our first female angel, because I was like, I'm a female founder, I cannot have a cap table that's all men, I need women to empathize with me and be there to guide me, right? So I think, through the work that we do, we also have a channel called Josh Talks Asha, which focuses not only on career for women, but it's at the intersection of health and career. Because again, one thing I realized is that for all of us, we are going through so many changes in our body as we, like move from the 20s to the 30s to the 40s. And if you don't tie that into addressing the issues that you're going through, you're not going to be able to strive or grow in your career. So it can't be treated independently. And that's why the objective is that we look at women as an ecosystem where we address issues which are holding us back or becoming barriers, including women who drop off after marriage or after having their children, and try and create a safe space where there are others who can share their experiences and then get them back to work. And like I've decided, so I turned 30 this year, and like the child in me for every decade has had an objective that who do I want to work for and what problem do I want to solve in the world. And I decided that my 30s are going to be dedicated to women. So I have become a lot more active now in at least voicing my concerns, because I know that like we need more people to feel empathetically and passionately to actually solve for this now. So that's sort of my attempt here.
I remember, like from your words, I remember Indira Nui ji talking about that our biological clock and our career clock are ticking at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I would like to know your perspective on this quote, because I think you've been through this journey and you have seen a lot of women who are coming on your Josh Talks or investors or anything. What is the perspective about that and how can we tackle this? Because according to me, women are great leaders in terms of understanding the vulnerability, empathy, and that's what drives them. Because Jacinda Ardern, the way she tackled COVID was because of the empathetic approach towards her country, and I think it was the first one to have a COVID-free state, like in a COVID-free state. So can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Indra Nui said, right, about the biological clock and the career clock. I think one is that we have to accept it. I think half the time we're trying to fight this battle saying that we need to delay one decision over the other to make one area survive and one area thrive. But I think the first step is in knowing that okay, this is sort of how our bodies are going to evolve with age. These are the decisions that we need to take for our own personal lives, and these are the decisions that we need to take for our own professional careers. I think, it's easier said than done that both can be balanced well. But for example, you have to take hard calls, right? Like I decided to not think about marriage till the time that I was 30. Which is not a luxury that my friends had, because there was sort of pressure from society to get married early, to start a family early, but it's a trade-off. And you have to know, like personally, what is the objective that you are chasing, and then everything else has to fall in place to help you achieve that objective. So it will always be one or the other. Very few people can actually balance both. And if you hear Indra Nui talk about it, right, and she talks about, and it's not just Indra Nui, it's like if you look at any female professional leaders, we had Naina Lal Kidwai who also came on Josh, and I was talking to her and she said, I regret it that I wasn't there for my father during his last days, and for the rest of my life it's something that will always come back to haunt me. But at the end of the day, she revolutionized banking for women. And you see so many women now going into financial services. So she may feel that way, but I feel like a person like her, when she took that decision, she changed the career trajectory of, at least 10,000 women, if not more. So that's sort of the decision that you have to take in your career, and it's a battle that you have to fight, and the guilt that you have to fight every single day.
Yeah, of course, like you spoke beautifully about the women's side of it, but I also feel that is it a support system problem in India or even in the West? Because when I was writing about this, it's not just women standing up for women, but the society being very inclusive about creating such infrastructure or creating such services where they can thrive in both the angles, making it an inclusive environment for everybody to thrive. Do you think support system could evolve more in this nature?
Yeah, and I think the support system has to be anonymous, because what I've seen with women is that there is this immense fear of judgment. So you may have the best circle of friends and you know who you've grown up with, and but you still may not be comfortable enough to share what you're going through. And I'll tell you, you know, I'll try and build context into what I mean over here. In a different situation, I have a friend of mine who's going through some hormonal issues, and you know, like the first thing that you think of is that go and speak to your gynecologist. It's simple. Like, you know, there is a doctor who can address this for you. Why are you not going? And she said that the doctor is a family friend of mine. So if I'm sharing something with her, I know that 10 people who are in my circle who also go to her will know. So, you know, there's that, and this is such a noble profession. Like doctors, lawyers are supposed to keep confidentiality, but we have this sort of fear of judgment even from them. And that's why we don't go out there and actually share our perspective of what we're really thinking, what we're really feeling, and what we're going through. So I think there have to be more safe spaces for women to talk without the fear of judgment, and that's happening. You know, there are so many new professional networks, like there's Leap Club. I'm a big fan of what they do, where they've created these spaces where women can come and collaborate and talk.
That's fabulous, and I see that a lot of Gen Zs, now I'm working with Gen Zs also. So Gen Z women and everybody, they are free of judgment. They want to see who you are as a person and not your appearance, not your societal stature, not anything else, who you are. So I think it is evolving, but it is going to take time to just break down that generational judgment which comes, or generational barriers which come. But I think we are in the right direction based on the platforms which you have built, and the way you beautifully spoke about that. I am a woman entrepreneur. Of course I want investors who are women. Of course I want people I work with as women. So we are creating that equal platform, and social media is the most equalized platform for all. You can just share what you have. And what is your take on, you know, transitioning from offline to online and equalizing the platform even more?
So I think it works both ways. There is a need to have a balance of offline and online. So online, of course, works to be able to increase the number of people that you can reach out to, who you can drive awareness in, who you can, you know, build that sort of connection with. But I think the true relationships are formed offline. But if you have a presence online and then someone is interacting with you offline, then that builds the ideal relationship that you have, right? Which is why even if you look at individual content creators, no matter what they do online, they always, when they're traveling to a new city, they try and do like a meet and greet, because that's where trust and loyalty gets built, when you see someone in the flesh. Otherwise it's like, you know, you're one step away from me, you're on camera, you're in a different world, I don't relate to you as much. But if I see you sitting right next to me, you're like one step away from me, I can see you in the flesh, I feel a lot more connected to you. So, and I think the same thing is happening across industries, right? Like education in COVID became completely online, and then we realized that for education to have completion rates, people come to school and college to study, yes, but they stay because of the friendships that they have, you know, and like what they do outside of that classroom with the activities, the, you know, societies that they're a part of, and that now has to be recreated. So now most edtech is also moving back offline and starting learning centers. Yeah.
So being a pioneer in the content space, and being somebody who is educating millions of people across with the kind of content you build, what are the emerging trends or opportunities you foresee for creators or platforms right now?
So I think one thing is that, you know, a lot of people have got onto this trend of creating shorts right now for YouTube, or, you know, whatever short consumption is happening on Instagram as well through Reels. But I see that as a fad right now, because I do eventually feel that people will go back to long form consumption, and there aren't enough creators who are now focusing on extremely long form knowledgeable content. Even if you look at, you know, the conversational space online, it's about the clips that are coming out rather than that 2.5 3 hour conversation that two real people are having. So I think that's going to be something that comes back, because people are living in a world where everything is now so vain that after after a period of time, they'll start seeking depth online. And that's when, you know, content creators who are working on in-depth content will see the traction which they probably may not be seeing right now. The second thing is that regional hasn't started on the internet. You know, we know there's access, smartphone penetration is there, but the internet still exists in English and Hindi. At most you have entertainment and news in the regional languages, but if you look at knowledge based content, if you look at, you know, like say the financial creation space, which is big right now in English and Hindi, the health space, which is big in English and Hindi, the government job space, again big in English and Hindi, there is nothing in regional languages. So I still see that that journey will take time. It will take at least 3 to 5 more years. But for people who are patient and who want to see rewards at the end of a decade, I think regional is there. And the third, of course, is that a lot of voice will take over video, because, you know, for the consumption that we see in our audience and the interaction that they have online right now, video is of course a prevalent way of passive consumption, but audio is two ways. So there will be, you know, platforms where you can almost communicate with people who are creating content through voice, and I do see that as a trend that will shape up.
That's amazing. I think I have learned so much from you, and it's a very short time for me to cover immense topics with you. But is there like one line you can say to us to describe yourself and Josh in the next 5 years? Anything. This is going to be my last question to you.
Yeah. So I think if I had to describe myself in a word, it would probably be relentless, because this journey is extremely long and hard, and you have to keep at it and you have to keep pushing yourself every single day. So that would be it. For where Josh will go in the next 5 years, I think we have a more 2-decade long sort of approach, 20 years rather than 5 years. But we know that to get out of generational poverty, education and access to exposure is the only thing that can help you. And we will be the platform that solves for it at scale, right? Nobody wants to work for the masses because you can't monetize easily. Nobody wants to work for lower income households. It's a very long journey, but you know, our hope is that 10-15 years down the line, if someone has done well in their career, they'll say it's because of the Josh that they had in their life and on their mobile phone. That's sort of the dream that we're chasing.
I think what you said about the regional, that there's nobody in the regional space who is penetrating to the masses where even the phones are not accessible. I foresee you already making change happen in these areas. And I wish to meet you offline and to have a very long conversation with you, because whatever you said today was absolutely incredible. I mean, like, just another question, like if I can just add on to it, what is the one word which you will use if your biography or a book was featured upon you? So what would be the name of that?
Yeah, I think I would use the word Ziddi, because I've been called it all my life, that, you know, whether it was with respect to my career, with respect to my relationships, my life, everything has been centered around this word, and it's been made to be like this word that's lived with me. Earlier I used to think of it in a negative context, but now I have just embodied it. I love it. I love to be that stubborn, opinionated person in the room, because I know that that's the only thing that will get me ahead.
That's amazing. So thank you for joining Unfiltered Conversations. I'd like to ask you, what do you think about today's conversation and any feedback, because you are the pioneer in this and we are just starting off. So anything?
No, I think it was lovely. I think you covered a lot of different facets, which typically doesn't happen in such a short period of time. But I think as you move these conversations maybe offline, like I said, right, like our focus is that don't create only for Instagram or for short form content consumption, but have a view on how much depth can you provide to the audience and who that audience is for you, and what's the takeaway for them. So, you know, like just mapping that, like one is that, okay, I want a lot of people to get inspired, but the second is to have almost an image of a human being with a name attached to it, that Rashmi is the girl I'm creating for, and for Rashmi these are the 10 things that will really change something in her life. So yeah, I think that would be my only piece of advice.
Thank you for your time today, and thank you for connecting with us. This was Supriya ji and her fascinating story and a lot about Josh Dogs. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.